ain't heard nothing. You want to hear Toot Toot Tootsie? All right, hold on.
Episode 1 previously covered Fred and Ginger's lives and careers from their births through 1934, covering their vaudeville and Broadway careers. This episode covers their Hollywood careers from 1929 until their first pairing in Flying Down to Rio in 1933. This phase crosses over the last and is almost all Ginger. Ginger entered the movies in 1929, while at first still doing vaudeville, Broadway, and nightclub acts. She did 26 movies and shorts before Flying Down to Rio, slowly working her way up. Fred continued his stage career through July 1933, before his first and only movie appearance before their historic pairing. To thoroughly cover the enormous careers of our two stars, a combined 136 years, 105 movies and shorts, stars in vaudeville, Broadway, movies, radio, and television, I have created 3 playlists that cover all their movies in detail, plus additional subjects. The complete Fred and Ginger movies, songs, and dances covers their 10 movies together, and the independent Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire playlists the other 95 movies and shorts apart from each other. With this, you will find in-depth coverage of the movies I reference throughout this series. Ginger's entrance into the movies was in New York, performing in 3 shorts in 1929 and 1930. All I have found from Ginger's first short is this image and seemingly the soundtrack.
Promo handy, last night, some night.
Well, this will set you right.
What a girl, I'm lost without you. You believe me?
I can't doubt you.
My regards complete.
Well, thank you, Phil. That's sweet. Breakfast?
Yes, but I'm still squippy.
Then you'll dress.
Just a jiffy.
Coffee?
Black and strong.
Now, hurry. Don't be long.
The only available early short is 1930's A Night in a Dormitory for Pathé Exchange, and it is pretty bad. Just about the best parts are when Ginger sings 2 songs in a practiced little girl voice of the time.
I'm crazy for one big thrill. I want to be loved until I'm willing to say I will. Why can't you love that way? I love a man in a uniform, oh boy, and how. So second man in a uniform, oh boy, and how. It's not the man, it's what he's got in his bag. That makes me want to holler at a boy dad.
Pathé Exchange took existing vaudeville acts and put them into their shorts. What we saw here is probably part of Ginger's act that helped her rise to the top vaudeville venues in America, and, if so, the only existing footage. Unfortunately, only one part of her act. Ginger would do what was called happy songs and snappy patter, and was known for her comedic skills in the routines between her songs. There is none of that. Ginger was not the only future star in this little short. Tommy Dorsey plays the trombone with the band. Thelma White sings and dances Stay With It before Ginger. A successful vaudeville comedienne, this was her movie debut. She is famous or infamous as the star of Reefer Madness, rediscovered in 1972. Performing for the USO in World War II, White contracted a rare form of polio and was crippled. I stated Ginger had an unusual amount of surprising backstories in her career, and in this case, a truly tragic one, but, regretfully, not the only tragic one. 2 shorts later, Pathé Exchange made the unfortunately named 16 Sweeties. I do not have production dates, but they made these quickly, so soon after A Night in a Dormitory. Much of the cast was the same. Band leader Eddie Elkins, Thelma White, and Cy Wills. I assume most of the chorus was the same. If so, this is one of the last times 10 or 11 of these girls were seen on this earth. By law, Pathé was to install a fire sprinkler system, but had requested an exemption. An arc light set the sound control drapes on fire, and one who escaped said there was time for only one yelled warning. 10 or 11 of the 16 sweeties perished. Pathé moved to California. Again, for the last short, Campus Sweethearts, all I can find is this one image. This time she has second billing to the huge singing star Rudy Vallee early in his career. Vallee was a singer, musician, radio host, and actor. He is described as one of the first teen idol pop stars. He was one of the first crooners and an inspiration to Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra. His early acting was wooden, but he did perform songs in many movies. By the 40s, he was a successful supporting actor. In another crazy Ginger backstory, in Vallee's autobiography, he claimed Ginger asked him to marry her. Even when Ginger confronted him, he refused to back down from the story, and Ginger was furious. Famous songwriters Bert Kalmar and Harry Ruby saw Ginger's vaudeville act at the Orpheum, which led to her first Broadway play, Top Speed. Paramount executive Walter Wanger saw Ginger in Top Speed and wanted her to play a role in an upcoming movie. After the screen test, Ginger was signed to a 7-year contract. Ginger's first movie was Young Man of Manhattan, starring Claudette Colbert and Norman Foster. Claudette Colbert is one of the greatest actresses from the classic era, AFI's 12th Top 25 actress, Best Actress winner and 3-time nominee, and so many other awards. I consider her It Happened One Night, 1934, the first great movie. Ginger was thrilled to appear with her and found her a pleasure to work with. Ginger would be in one more movie with Claudette. Norman Foster had a fairly successful acting career on Broadway and the movies between 1926 and 1936. He was a movie and television director after that. Ginger would appear in 2 more movies with Foster. This is the only pairing of Claudette and Norman, a married couple with a really odd relationship. They were married in 1928, divorced in 1935, and for the most part lived apart. Wikipedia states, in 1928, Foster secretly married Claudette Colbert in London. Concerned about the reaction of Colbert's mother to their union, they continued to keep their marriage a secret from her, even to the point of living apart. Ginger had 4th billing after the great character actor and comedian Charles Ruggles, who would appear in other movies in the future with both Fred and Ginger. He appeared in over 100 movies during his 50-year-long career and has 3 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for movies, radio, and television. Claudette Colbert plays the sweet, long-suffering wife of Norman Foster, at first an irresponsible, drunken fool. Ruggles is Foster's friend. Ginger plays a rather despicable role, and she does it well. Her character is a young, rich flapper, Puff Randolph, an immoral, home-wrecking brat chasing Foster, regardless he is married.
So you're married?
Not just that, I'm in love.
With your wife?
Of course.
I would get a break like that.
Ginger gets to sing 2 songs.
I can't hold a man the way that I should. I've got it, but it don't do me no good. Onto the habits of love. Oh, he could sugar my coffee and tea. He could butter my rolls. When he starts in to cuddle at me, I've a will but no control.
I do not have revenue data on this movie, not sure how popular it was. But Ginger always finds a way to stand out, and here does so with the quote that became a thing at that time.
Cigarette me, big boy.
What?
Cigarette me, big boy. Cigarette me.
Oh, yes.
Play it for me.
Well, why don't you do it?
I must be my age.
Well, don't. You're always really tall.
Oh, yeah?
I love the scene where Ruggles gets rid of Ginger for good.
I'm happy to... Well, Toby's going to give me the deuce when he finds out I mixed you up with that silly little flapper.
Oh. Did he tell you to tell me, I mean her, that he wasn't in? Oh. He told you to hang up on me. Her.
Oh, we all know about it in the office. Oh, yeah. Yeah, she calls up there every day. Yeah, we call her if at. You know, if at first you don't succeed, try all over again.
You beast!
Did I hear you hang up on me? I did.
In Ginger's next movie, The Sap from Syracuse, she has second billing after comedy star Jack Oakey, with whom she would appear with 2 more times. Jack Oakey had a nice career as a comedian, first on Broadway, then a few silent films, and finally as top comedian in the talkies, for a total of 94 movies. His best period was in the 30s, but he was nominated for Best Actor imitating Mussolini in Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator. Amazing backstory. Jack Oakey was functionally deaf throughout his career. Oakey is a crane operator who inherits money and takes a cruise to Europe. His employer plays a send-off prank, spreading a rumor on the ship he is actually the famous engineer who built the new Erie Canal. Ginger is a young heiress about to lose her $1 million mine in Macedonia because of engineering issues. Of course, she turns to the famous engineer for help.
I know, but listen,
You're the only person on the boat who can help me.
Do you want me to help you? Gee, I'll do anything in the world for you, lady. Anything in the world.
But if they should start to pump you, don't give them any engineering information.
That won't be hard to do.
Mr. Harcross is trying to get me to sign a paper.
What?
He's trying to get me to sign away my mine.
Why, the old cutthroat.
Now you sing it.
You've a song for me in your heart, dear, if you could but see where to start, dear, how I wish you could sing that love song. Da-da-da-da.
Ginger went to see All Quiet on the Western Front, a blockbuster that year, and in retrospect, highly acclaimed. Ginger fell in love with Lou Ayres, one of the stars, and this moment would affect her the rest of her life. Ginger's possible first radio appearance was May 13, 1930, on the inaugural episode of the Mardi Gras program. She sang, "I Wish I Could Sing a Love Song," from her movie, The Sap from Syracuse. After Top Speed ended, Ginger's next movie was Queen High, where she had second billing as a young high society girl who decides to work as a secretary at her uncle's business. She has second billing to Stanley Smith, who had a short 2-year run as a leading man in 1929 and 1930. It is mostly a comedy featuring Charles Ruggles and Frank Morgan as business partners who fight all the time. You will recognize Frank Morgan as the Wizard of Oz, and later he stars with Fred in The Bandwagon. It is not a very good movie. Ginger sings one song and part of another.
When the blues have got you, here's what you should do. Brothers, just laugh it off.
This is Eleanor Powell's movie debut in an uncredited role, tap dancing on the table to the left. There is one hilarious scene by Charles Ruggles, whose style I like very much. He lost a bet and is now Morgan's butler, and loses it when a maid on the staff steals the letter from his girl, terrifying the staff singing the bizarre, "I love the girls in my own peculiar way."
You know what happened to the last woman I married?
What?
I took her out into the backyard and hung her on the clothesline and
skinned.
Ah, baloney.
Some worship women and some respect them. I like to strangle and then dissect them. I love the girls in my own peculiar way.
A side story is the romance between Ginger and Stanley Smith, Ruggles' nephew.
Seems to me you seem to be someone I've been looking for.
Seems to me it's ABC. You're the someone I adore.
Paramount gave Ginger permission to do Girl Crazy at this time, which made her a star. It was at this time Fred and Ginger first met, when Fred was brought into the set of Girl Crazy as a choreography advisor. Soon Fred asked Ginger out for a date. Covered in depth in episode 1, while they both had reasons to downplay this time. As far as I am concerned, the totality of their comments indicated they dated quite a bit. Ginger writes about passionately kissing Fred on their first date, and what might have been between them if she did not soon run off to Hollywood. Ginger did a cute little short where she pines for her boss and sings 2 songs about it.
I'm delectable, he's respectable. My love's negotiable, he won't be sociable. I see where we can get along. Yes, sir, let me put you wise. Dear sir, that I advertise a certain brand of kiss you can't afford to miss.
Ginger had second billing, but actually a smaller role, in Follow the Leader, starring Ed Wynn. I find Wynn's style of comedy annoying, but he was a huge star in vaudeville, the opening act when the center of vaudeville, the Palace in New York City, opened in 1913. He then went on to star in movies and television until his death in 1966. Paramount's New York division looked for talent from Broadway. Ginger's mother, Leela, had recommended the unknown Ethel Merman for a role in Girl Crazy with Ginger, which made Merman a star. Follow the Leader came right after Merman's first movie. She would go on to be a huge star. The other comedian in the movie is Lou Holtz, who I actually find funnier than Wynn. I looked up his career, and on IMDb he appeared in only 4 movies, a nothing biography, and is known as a scriptwriter, not an actor. Gotta check your sources. While he was never big in the movies, he was huge in vaudeville and on Broadway, then on television and high-end club dates. In 1925, he broke the record with a 10-week run at the Palace in New York City, the top vaudeville spot in America, and then repeated that. Then he crushed it at the Palace's competition, the Hollywood Theater. In the 1920s, Holtz was the highest paid star on Broadway, and his credits go on and on and on. So I was right. It's a shame so little of his career was recorded in the movies. Oddly enough, Ginger's part was fairly small, and even though her role was as a new star in a show, Ginger never appears on the stage nor sings a song. I believe Paramount, which had locked Ginger into a 7-year contract, blundered here. They gave Ginger permission to star in the Broadway play Girl Crazy, which made Ginger a star. But once they did that, they severely diminished her roles in their movies. Her last performance was in a short, then this minimal role, and not much better in the next movie. I believe they did so in consideration of her hectic schedule, but they did not understand how hard a worker she was, something that paid off in her partnership with the obsessive perfectionist Fred Astaire later on. Or they didn't want to cut a shoot short because Ginger had to leave at 6 p.m. every day. Whatever their reasoning, within a year Ginger begged out of her contract and moved to Hollywood. Ginger plays a young rising star in the show, but oddly enough, Ginger never gets to perform in the movie, even in her opening night performance that makes her a star, or when she is a hit in Paris.
So first to congratulate you. You gave a fine performance tonight. Gee, you're a great little trooper.
Way up in heaven where they guide your prayers, guide your angels on
But she is the motivation for everything that occurs in this movie, including the criminal gang, the Hudson Dusters, making Wynn kidnap the star of the show, Ethel Merman, so understudy Ginger has the lead on opening night.
The scandal's open tomorrow night. You gotta kidnap Helen King and keep her from showing up. It's your last chance.
Well, that's the same thing that I will not kidnap anyone.
Well, let's show him what happens to a duster that fails.
You boys are always showing me new things.
So.
What's that? What?
Her love interest, again, is Stanley Smith.
Jim? Now look.
Oh, Jimmy.
Excuse me, you bumped right into me, Jim. When you wrote me the letter, Mary... Oh, I don't drink, Jim. You ought to know that. Oh, you mean you want to talk? Jim, listen. Look, Jimmy, wait. You don't understand. Look here. Look, you folks are going to get married right away, aren't you? I mean, well, what's the matter with you? You're crazy about Jimmy. Everybody down here knows that. And you're crazy about Mary.
Ginger's fifth movie, Honor Among Lovers, is a very good movie, definitely worth watching, but not if you are looking for a great deal from Ginger. Even though she had fourth billing, it is a very diminished role, with only 2 good short comedic scenes. Her part mostly consists of standing around looking stupid. The chemistry between the great actors Claudette Colbert and Frederick March makes this movie. This is early in both of their careers, before they became top stars in Hollywood. Frederick March was a great actor, and it is surprising he did not make the AFI Top 25 Actors. He had an award-filled career both in Hollywood and Broadway. In 1937, he was listed as the 5th highest-paid individual in America. In 1938, he came in second in a poll to play Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind. In 1947, he won both an Oscar and a Tony for Best Actor. Monroe Owsley was the son of a Broadway actress. He plays a despicable character, and he plays it very well. So well, in this and other performances, that he was totally typecast and unlikable, and his career crashed. He became addicted to booze, drugs, and gambling. He was in a car accident which triggered a fatal heart attack. He died the same day as Jean Harlow, June 7, 1937, only 36 years old. Colbert is Marge's extremely efficient executive secretary, and they also love each other. But Marge refuses marriage, and Colbert refuses to be a mistress. When he finally asks for her hand, it is just hours too late.
If you want to walk down the aisle, St. Thomas's, with me standing at the other end wearing a big gardenia, I'm game. I'm crazy about you. Saturday night and yesterday, I was lonelier and more miserable than I've ever been in my life.
Jerry, wait.
Will you marry me?
Jerry, I am married. This morning, early.
Colbert has chosen a real loser, and everyone pays for it.
I got a tip that looked good, and I was going to surprise you. If this thing had only worked out. Well, I had the cover. I didn't have any capital left, and... Well, all I had to lay my hands on was Stafford's collateral.
Well, how much have you lost?
All of it.
Charles Ruggles, a millionaire investor, is March's best friend. Ginger plays his new girlfriend.
No, I'm still talking business. You run right outside and sit down, and I'll be with you in a minute. That's the nice girl. I'm breaking in a new one.
Oh, I see.
She's all right. A little dumb, but she's all right.
Ginger gets 2 scenes that matter.
I want to know what is caviar. Looks like rubber. Smells like fish.
It's fish when they're very young.
Oh, I don't believe it. They're round. And I never heard of a round fish. Oh, yes. Salmon croquette.
Oh, Doris, what is your name?
Well, I was born Smith, but my stepfather's name was Smythe, which made my mother's name Smith-Smythe. But that was too long for me, so I adopted my grandfather's first name, which was much shorter, Hemingway. But I decided there were so many Hemingways, so...
The name is Brown.
With her husband facing jail time, Colbert offers herself to March if he will help them. He helps, but refuses to let the woman he loves prostitute herself. The plot now justifies the title, as Colbert and March act so honorably through some terrible difficulties. It was during her time in New York City Ginger first picked up two pastimes that were important to her the rest of her life: horseback riding and tennis. Ginger was offered a 3-movie deal by RKO Pathé Pictures, produced in California, and she wanted to get out of her Paramount contract. Ginger references casting couch issues a few times in her bio, here for the first time. While she makes it clear she never succumbed to this vile practice, she also does not talk about it with venom. Her approach is more like it was a reality young actresses had to deal with, stating certain producers have assumed they could have whatever they wanted. Maybe because she was never a victim. Her mother protected and guided her through this minefield. About Paramount East Coast head Wanger, Ginger says he fancied himself a ladies' man. Her mother could not always be at the studio, and Wanger called her down to his office frequently, and Ginger explains the different methods she used to get out of the situation. About Wanger, she concludes, "Whenever he saw me in public, he would hold up his right hand in cat-like fashion, clawing the air. This was his way of saying, 'I'll get you yet.' In all my motion picture experience, no other executive ever behaved quite like Mr. Wanger." In a crazy backstory, December 13th, 1951, Wanger, this bold womanizer, shot Jennings Lang, his wife Joan Bennett's agent, twice in the groin area. Obviously, he was trying to castrate the poor fellow. Wanger did 4 months in jail. He had a jealous fit about his wife and her agent. "I shot him because I thought he was breaking up my home," Wanger told the chief of police of Beverly Hills. Bennett denied any romantic relationship and, amazingly, remained married to Wanger for 14 more years. Ginger and Leela met with Wanger, asked to be released from her contract, and without hesitation, Wanger said yes. Ginger was a bit crestfallen. She had expected at least some hesitation. As they left, Wanger said, "Good luck, Ginger. I'm sure someday I'm going to regret this." "You think?" Covered in detail in Episode 1, Ginger tells of her last meetings with Fred before heading off to Hollywood, going to a performance of The Bandwagon, and then not responding to a lovely letter from Fred once she was in Hollywood. Ginger and Leela were accompanied on the train ride to Hollywood by Harold Ross. On the first night there, Ross took them to a party where Ginger met many Hollywood celebrities, but she adds not the one she really wanted to meet, Lou Ayres. Ginger had what I consider her breakout role in her 6th movie, The Tip-Off, playing Babyface, in the kind of standout roles she would later play in several other movies early in her career. This was the first movie of a 3-movie deal. RKO, the small, unusual studio, always seemed to see more in Ginger than the others, and eventually was where Ginger would become a huge star. When she got there, Ginger was shocked at the differences between big, organized Paramount and tiny, crazy RKO. This is one of the few lead roles for Eddie Quillen, who came up through vaudeville and the silence and had a long career as a character actor on movies and TV. Robert Armstrong plays a middleweight boxing contender and is great in the role, an accomplished lead or supporting actor in over 160 movies and then on television. He is most famous for his lead role in King Kong. Ginger plays Babyface, Armstrong's girl. Quillen, a radio repairman, is looking for the power source when a flirty Ginger comes out of the bathroom.
I guess you don't recognize me, do you?
I believe these next scenes first established Ginger as great at playing a fast-talking, tough city girl, but sweet inside.
Not a chance.
All right, wise guy.
4 weeks from tonight, you fight for the middleweight crown. Every cent we got in the world's up for guarantee.
Well?
Well, who's going to be the heavy loser if something happens to that thick skull of yours beforehand?
Oh, now listen, baby.
Comb that out of your whiskers.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the last few minutes you have been listening to the dumbest dame in the world.
Don't get all worked up. Nothing's gonna happen.
You can't take any chances after everything we've planned and everything we're going to do.
That kid's walking into a slug. Be yourself.
You can't go. If you do, I'll quit you.
You don't mean that, baby.
I do, too. If you go, I'm through with you this time forever.
Oh, honey. Oh, now look at your makeup.
Ginger got a nice little comment about her performance in the New York Times. A funny backstory about Ginger and her blonde hair. RKO decided Ginger should be a blonde, but forgot to tell her about it. She only realized when she felt the stinging of the dye while the hairdresser worked on her. She was furious and made a stink, but after a few days decided she liked the look. Suicide Fleet, Ginger's next movie, is really the story of 3 friends working in Coney Island and all competing for Ginger's affection. William Boyd had been huge in the silence, but his career crashed when sound was introduced. Soon enough, he would become Hopalong Cassidy, a successful series of 66 movies and a mainstay on early television. James Gleason is the consummate Hollywood character actor, eventually being nominated for an Oscar Best Supporting Actor. But he was also a successful Broadway and Hollywood writer, director, and producer.
Dream kisses, only a dime. Dream kisses, have a good time. Red and blue and yellow, color for each fella. Cream kisses, only a dime.
Matter, getting sore?
No, I ain't sore.
Got your feelings hurt, huh? You ought to be tougher like Dutch and Skeet. You couldn't hurt their feelings.
But you could.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they're both crazy about you.
Oh, and you're not, huh?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, then you are.
And I didn't say that either.
Never Enough Work Ginger ran off to do live shows in St. Louis and Broadway before her next movie. She also wrote 2 published songs at this time. One, Used to Be You, she would later perform in a Paramount short. In a sad backstory expanded upon in the last episode, Ginger visited her beloved grandfather during this trip. In her biography written almost 60 years later, Ginger devotes almost 7 pages to this event, more than most subjects. Always a fashion horse, Ginger wanted to look great for her grandfather and was dressed quietly chic. Her grandfather was devastated at Ginger's appearance, became sullen, said Ginger looked like an everyday girl, not a movie star. She wrote, "I didn't want to be a movie star in my grandfather's house. I just wanted to be his granddaughter." Stopping at her cousin's house, she brought her younger cousin, Helen Nichols, to Hollywood, who became actress Phyllis Fraser. She had a fair career, including co-starring with John Wayne in one of his B movies before he made it big, Winds of the Wasteland. I have no information on this 20-minute short Ginger appeared in. This was produced by the Thalians Club, not the same named Hollywood charitable organization founded in 1955. In Carnival Boat, Ginger is again with William Boyd, and again is the motivation for the story while in a smaller role. She is cute in one early scene.
Well, honey, let me look you over. Gosh, you're getting prettier every day.
Oh, it's just the makeup.
Oh, I know better. You glad to see me? Did you think about me when you were gone?
Oh, yes. But you see, I had lots of things to do, and I was pretty busy, you know.
Oh, yeah, I see. Well, I've been awful busy myself. I haven't had much time to think about anything but timber.
Is that so, Mr. Gannon?
Would I be lying?
I hope so.
You win, honey. I haven't thought about anything with you since you left.
And sings one song.
I told my dad and mother, my sister and my brother, that I would never fall in love. I meant it from the start. I'm silly, I'm raving, I feel like misbehaving. Oh, baby, how I could go for you.
My men sweat for the money, and then you come along and take it away from them. You fill them full of rot gut, and then slap them in the face with a bunch of cheap, frowsy women.
Hold on, mister. This is no picnic for us. It's work. Supposing we do sing and dance for a living, that doesn't mean we're not just as good as you or anybody else.
Oh, you're all alike, or you wouldn't be here.
Wait a minute, Dad.
Ginger reprised Girl Crazy with the original cast for a 2-week run at the Paramount in Oakland, California in April 1932. This was a new concept, put on a truncated version of a stage show, followed by a movie. It was a big success. Ginger had moved into the Garden of Olive Villas around late 1931, and in her bio states when taking tennis lessons met Mervyn LeRoy and they hit it off. LeRoy's bio states instead they started dating when Ginger was still back in New York. Just the start of all this contradictory information. LeRoy got his start in the business, working for his cousin Jesse L. Lasky, who was huge as the first movie mogul, forming the Jesse L. Lasky Feature Play Company in 1913, in partnership with Cecil B. DeMille and Samuel Goldwyn. LeRoy soon advanced to director and was nicknamed the Boy Wonder of Warner Brothers. He advised Ginger on her career moves and put in a good word to Warner Brothers for her. Ginger says they went on many dates and refers to him as a marvelous companion, but also that he was very helpful to my career. He told her she was star material. Well, he was right about that. I have such respect at the daring way Ginger maneuvered her career during this period, refusing the guaranteed income of a long-term contract, because she would also lose all control of the direction of her career. Ginger had to provide not only for herself, but for her mother and cousin. She benefited greatly from the guidance of a very smart and capable mother, and now also getting advice from a big player in the movies in LeRoy. Ginger was driven and confident, and felt she could play any role. I agree, she could. In this pre-code period, all they could see is 2 roles for her, hot babe or sweet love interest. While she did these very well, she had already broken the typecast role playing the naughty Puff Randolph and the fast-talking, hot-tempered but sweet babyface. From early on, Ginger wanted to prove herself a dramatic actress, and she was right. The careers of hot babes ended at 30, and most actresses back then at 40. Only great dramatic actresses could go on forever. After her RKO Pathé contract was over, Ginger freelanced through the studios. Her first movie was The 13th Guest, a thriller, for Monogram. I find this a stunningly bold choice. So far she had appeared in productions for large or mid-sized studios that put out quality products with big stars. Monogram was part of what was called Poverty Row, small studios without the budgets or talent pool to create blockbuster movies. Monogram put out mostly action-adventure movies. So Ginger slummed it on Poverty Row to finally get that dramatic role. Who knows? Maybe she had no other offers at this time. Or maybe she was sending a loud message to the bigger studios. I demand to play all kinds of roles, and I don't need you to make a good movie. Her co-star was Lyle Talbot, who she would later star with again. He had a huge career, over 150 movies, plus many television and stage appearances. He was a supporting actor in A movies, the lead in more B movies, and was number 2 in Ed Wood's studio. He co-starred with many of the leading actresses of his day. It also featured the consummate character actor J. Farrell McDonald, who appeared in over 300 movies between 1911 and 1951, and would appear again with Ginger several other times.
Mr. Barksdale? Mr. Barksdale, is that you? Mr. Barksdale?
How did you get out of the morgue?
I haven't been in any morgue. Take your hands off me.
Be nice.
I won't. Let me alone.
Do you want me to spank you? Hold still. That's a good little girl.
Paramount put out a series of advertising shorts called Hollywood on Parade between 1932 and 1934. I cannot find much information on this series, but I assume Paramount would have promoted their stars. So Ginger's appearance in the first episode is a bit confusing. She had already gotten out of her Paramount contract, just completed a 3-movie deal with RKO, and was soon to appear in 2 movies for Warner Brothers. Plus, they let her sing a song she had published, not one of theirs. I think, without proof, the studios were competing to lock Ginger in for a long-term contract, and Paramount did this as part of their sales pitch.
I remember the girl who used to be you. That kind of a girl would always be true. She flirted, she laughed, she danced all divine. No fingers were crossed when she said she was mine. Oh, where has she gone? Who used to be you? I find in her place a stranger who knew the girl in my mind. I love my life through. The girl who used to be you.
There are times when accurately telling their life story becomes very confusing for this author, where their bios disagree on the same subject, or other sources tell a totally different story. Never more than starting here. All I can do is repeat the facts and the gossip, and then add my conjecture, but you have to decide. In this post from summer 1932, it states Ginger was engaged to Mervyn LeRoy. Ginger never mentions this at all in her otherwise detailed bio. As to possibly why, if this was not just a tabloid invention, will soon be discussed. Katharine Hepburn made her movie debut for RKO in A Bill of Divorcement, released September 30th, 1932, to much acclaim, and within 3 years won an Oscar Best Actress for Morning Glory, 1933, had the lead and her name solo over the title in Oscar Best Picture nominated Little Women, also 1933, and an Oscar Best Actress nomination for Alice Adams, 1935. Yes, this is a documentary series about Fred and Ginger, but Ginger's experience at RKO is intertwined with Hepburn's as the 2 strong-willed women collided at the studio, during screen tests, and finally in a movie. At this time, Hepburn was the undisputed queen of RKO, which Ginger was soon to join with a long-term contract and a stunning string of successes. Little RKO is too small for 2 queens, and it makes one hell of a backstory. In The Tenderfoot, Ginger had second billing to future huge star Joe E. Brown, and then appeared in the second movie with Brown. Ginger continued her freelancing through the studios in this period, now doing 2 movies for First National Pictures. First National started in 1917 as an association of independent theater owners, the country's largest theater chain. In 1924, it started producing movies, but was taken over by Warner Brothers in 1928. Warner continued releasing movies under First National until 1936. So, in reality, this was Ginger's first 2 movies for Warner Brothers. I assume Ginger's relationship with boyfriend Mervyn LeRoy helped Ginger in getting these roles, but she was rising in her career by her own merits, and like all the other studios, Warner wanted to lock Ginger in for a long-term contract. Brown was in the top moneymaker poll from 1932 to 1937, reaching 5th in 1936. After that, he was a character actor, probably best remembered for his role in Some Like It Hot. Ginger praises Brown as a wonderful actor and man. The struggling, corrupt, immoral play producer is performed well by Lou Cody. Cody had a good career in the silence and transitioned well to sound, but then suddenly passed away in 1934 from heart disease.
Yes, Miss Martin. Well, did Mac tell you the good news?
Now, listen,
Listen,
Ruth.
nothing. I'm sick and tired of your stalling. I've had enough, and I'm through.
Will you let me talk? Do you know what just happened?
Yes, you had to come in the back way to dodge a sheriff.
Mac is sitting right in a box at the Follies now with a fellow with 20 grand in his vest and all in cash, too.
I've heard that one before.
I know it sounds like an alibi, but it's the truth. Now, you can't walk out on us now. I need you. Now, Mac's coming right back after the show. Now, we're going to contact him. We'll make a front to impress him.
I wouldn't be interested, even if you hadn't given me a bum salary check.
You'll get that back before night, I'm telling you.
That doesn't do me any good now. I've spent this money already, and now I'm faced with the embarrassment
I'll
of
tell
having
you
all...
what we'll do. If you'll help us to work on this fellow, I'll give you $100 bonus as soon as we hook him.
And to think when I took this job, I thought I was working for a legitimate theatrical
It is
producer.
a legitimate... Oh, you know what a hole I'm in.
Well, I certainly know what a hole I'm in.
You can get out of it if you'll only do as I say. Now, the first money that comes into the business, you'll be the first to be taken care of. Why, you afraid?
Not to the extent of $100.
That's the way to talk. I knew I could get you to play ball.
Don't kid yourself. It's only that right now I can't afford not to. If I hadn't spent that $50, I'd walk out of this office so fast it'd make your hair curl.
Now, listen. Well, that's all, Ruth. Come in, Mr. Jones. Oh, Mr. Jones, welcome. Come in, make your...
Wait a minute, Sam. You're not going to get away with that. If you think you can take his dough and then kick him out, you're all wet.
Who do you think you're talking to?
To you, wise guy. You hooked him with a lot of phony talk, sold him the idea of putting all of his money in a turkey show, and now, like every other little cheap tin-horn crook, you want to ease him out. That's just the kind of a trick I expected from a four-flusher like you. I should have known what kind of a guy you were when you hired me to help you hook him. Well, there's the money you gave me for smiling at him and making a fuss over him. Well, you can take it and lump it. I'm through.
You're fired.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
Ruth!
Calvin, I'm in the kitchen.
I advise none of you to make a bad move. Pick him up. Hit him up there.
Calvin.
There's a cab waiting at the curb. Go downstairs and get into it.
Calvin, hadn't you better come with me?
Don't you worry none about me, honey. I'll be along in a minute. I got some business with these tarantulas.
Ginger's second movie with Brown was You Said a Mouthful. Brown's character inherits a young orphan played by Alan Farina Hoskins, who has a substantial role as the brains of the pair. He is best known as a member of Our Gang, where he performed in 106 episodes between 1922 and 1931, more than any other cast member, was the highest paid, and producer Hal Roach's personal favorite. Preston Foster performs the role of Brown's nemesis in this movie. Foster was a solid character actor with 118 appearances in movies and TV between 1929 and 1968. He was multi-talented, actor, composer, songwriter, guitarist, and author, and had a few hit songs. He was even a professional wrestler. Chosen in a draw, he was the first star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Regretfully, this time, Ginger's role returns to Loyal and Faithful, with no juicy lines.
Mr. Holt, I'm so glad I found you. You are Mr. Holt, aren't you?
Why, yes.
You're just as I pictured you.
Yeah, but I don't understand.
Oh, of course you don't. I'm Alice Brandon. My father's Tom Brandon. You're going to stay at our house. Well, aren't you even going to thank Joe for saving your life?
What are you talking about? He didn't save my life. He was hanging onto that buoy when I...
How could you tell what was happening? You were knocked out.
Certainly. We saw the whole thing from the beach. After all, you got hurt saving a man's life. You're a hero, honey. Now, come on, sit up and have some more of this nice chicken broth. Darling, if you win that race tomorrow, there's nothing that you could ask me that I wouldn't say yes to.
You really mean that?
With all my heart.
Ginger's sixth appearance of 1932 was Hat Check Girl. This movie was lost until the only extant 35mm nitrate print was found and restored. It is in the possession of MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, and was presented as part of their Turner Classic Movies Classic Film Festival in April 2014, with subsequent showings. I understand you can request a private screening. Disney owns the rights, and MoMA is not allowed to share any of it. It is entering the public domain in 2028, but until then nobody can see it outside of MoMA. I have spent the last year trying to get a copy of all Fred and Ginger movies, but it seems like it will be a long time before I will get this one. The lead, Sally Eilers, was declared the most beautiful girl in movies in 1928. She gave an excellent performance in 1931's Bad Girl, nominated for Oscar Best Picture and the 9th highest revenue movie of the year, and personally hit 17th in the Top Moneymaker poll. After that high point, her career gradually diminished to supporting roles. The male lead, Ben Lyon, had been big in the silence. He starred in the huge hit Hell's Angels. Eventually he went to vaudeville and radio, and with his wife, silent screen star Bebby Daniels, entertained the troops in World War II with the radio show High Gang. There is a bizarre backstory about Lyons, Daniels, and an insane stalker, covered later when Ginger appears with Daniels in 42nd Street. All I know about the movie is Eilers plays a hat check girl in a rough criminal environment, and Ginger is the supportive friend. I read that Ginger shines whenever she's on the screen, has some sassy lines, and does a drunk scene near the end. Between 1922 and 1929, plus 1931, 32, and 34, Wampus, the Western Association of Motion Picture Advertisers, nominated 13 or so up-and-coming actresses as their baby stars. Ginger was nominated in 1932. Some never made it, some had nice careers, and here is the list of the few who made it big. 1926 was their best year, as you can see below, with 3 future Oscar Best Actress winners.
14 lucky girls, 1 from each studio. Hollywood's unanimous choice as the stars of tomorrow.
And I suppose Ginger Rogers wants to dance.
I'd much rather dance than do this.
We knew it!
Again, I am confused. What studio put up Ginger's name? Ginger had third billing in her next movie, Broadway Bad, starring Joan Blondell and Ricardo Cortez. This is a very nice movie. Joan Blondell had a long and successful career, almost 2 different careers. I think she is great, a real natural in front of the camera. Blondell was raised in a vaudeville family. She did well in 3 beauty contests in 1926. In 1930, Al Jolson bought the rights to a failed Broadway play, Penny Arcade, and sold it to Warner Brothers on the condition they keep the 2 stars, Joan and James Cagney, for the movie Sinner's Holiday. Blondell was paired with Cagney several more times, and paired with Glenda Farrell as gold diggers in 9 movies. During the Great Depression, Blondell was one of the highest paid individuals in the United States. She did nearly 50 films in the 30s, then left Warner Brothers in 1939. By 1945, she was in supporting roles. She was nominated for an Oscar and then won 2 Golden Globes for Best Supporting Actress. She also performed on TV, including 2 Emmy nominations. Ricardo Cortez almost made it big in the silence, successfully navigated the switch to sound, but soon enough dropped into B-roles and left Hollywood for Wall Street. While Ginger does not have a huge role, it was here Ginger established some new types of roles she would perform again in the future. Ginger was sometimes referred to as a chorus girl, for example, by one ex-co-star, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., in a derogatory way. Ginger said she never understood why. So some view Ginger's early career as playing chorus girls, and even that Ginger came up through the ranks after starting as a chorus girl. She was never a chorus girl in real life, always in the top-level billing in anything she appeared in, since she first hit vaudeville at 14 years old. As to her roles, she was briefly a chorus girl in Follow the Leader. This is the first of only 4 times she plays a chorus girl throughout a movie. The characterization comes from her next 2 movies. After that, briefly in Sitting Pretty and Romance in Manhattan. This is the first appearance of Brawling Ginger. I find that funny. Ginger is tiny. Not short at 5'4", but so slender she weighed only 105 pounds. Ginger already established herself as great at playing fast-talking, hot-tempered characters, and now backs it up with action, a role she would reprise in later movies. She first played the loyal, supportive friend in Hat Check Girl, but that is unavailable, so this is the first time we see Ginger in this role type. Blondell is new, and Ginger protects Blondell throughout the movie. Part of this is a momentary display of her dramatic skills, and you can't help but love her character. Blondell is in love with a rich young man, and foolishly gives in to his desires. New to being a chorus girl, luckily Ginger's character, Flip, has her back.
Aren't you losing your hair?
I am not.
Well, you will if you don't stop cracking.
Blondell has a benefactor, and she is taunted by his previous fling, as she also learns what she is dealing with. Taunted, that is, until Ginger steps in.
He was a swell guy. Used to send me dividend checks regularly. He handled my money. And what technique? He used to say, "Listen, dear, about your career, I don't want to try to force you into anything." Well, when he put it that way...
Gee, I'm afraid we're going to be late.
Craig's parties never start until 1. Give my regards to the cook.
Listen, you, one more crack like that and your neck will probably get tangled up in my fingers.
Now she also realizes the man she loves has jilted her.
Oh, gee. I sort of expected him this time.
Love. The 10th word in the telegram. Cheer up, kid. Wait till you get to that party with a couple of drinks under your evening gown. You'll forget what town you're in. Say, Flip, what did Eileen mean about those dividend checks? Well, that's one way of putting it. What do you mean? This is your first show. Wait, you'll learn. And that crack she made about his technique. She was trying to rib you. Say, you can ask more questions. I need a clean towel.
With the warning, Blondell is ready when Cortez puts on his routine.
My dear, I don't want to force you into doing anything
Anything you don't want to do. Isn't that the cutting technique? Oh, I know all about it. First flowers, then gifts, and then the good old cutting technique.
Blondell makes it big and has a terrible reputation, but it is all part of her plan.
Hey, Joe Flynn's been pumping me about Big Fella. What? Yeah, he wants to know how much dough he's got and about those mysterious weekends of yours. What else does he know? Don't worry, he thinks it's Big Eddie Malone. Oh. But you'd better watch your step. I guess I'll have to move again. Oh.
tired of it all? Nope, just tired. Why don't you be a nice girl and go to bed? Where have I heard that before? This ice has certainly gone to your heart. You mean to my bank account? Fast as I get 'em, I turn 'em into money and put it all in a nice little trust fund. That's gonna do you a lot of good. And as soon as it's 200 grand, white lady, she retire. I'm hysterical. I'm practically laughing. I'm gonna give this burg back to the Indians and find a nice quiet little place where there's no tabloids or dirt.
And now, little kiddies, for the rest of the bedtime story. Once upon a time, there was a prince.
Her mysterious secret, the big fella, is her son.
Good night, big fella.
Her old creepy boyfriend takes her to court to take away her son.
Did your husband or his father offer you any aid or assistance at that time?
No,
And you had no relatives?
none.
And no friends?
Just one. She was the only one that helped.
I shall, therefore, enter an order to place the child in the custody of Mr. Robert North.
No, you can't do it.
I'm sorry, Miss
You
Mabel.
can't do it, I tell you. Robert North is not the baby's father.
Do you realize there's a severe penalty for perjury? Do you know that you can go to prison for this? Who is the father? Are you trying to make us believe it's one of the hundreds of men your name has been linked with? Is it one of the men that so kindly donated money to you? Why are you lying?
I'm not lying.
No, then tell the court the whole truth. What is the name of your child's father? What is it?
Wait, please.
While you think of someone, who is the man? Name him. You can't.
His name is Craig Cutting.
When Ginger was 22, she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. That explains the rapid weight gains and losses that seemingly appear over her earlier movies, which were made one right after another. Ginger was very religious and a Christian Scientist, so she did not believe in modern medical cures. One assumes she therefore did not use insulin. There is one statement that her fifth husband tricked her into taking it much later in her life. Diet and exercise can help with diabetes, and Ginger had plenty of that between her torrid work schedule, the dancing, the tennis, swimming. However she handles this, she remained very slender after this point for almost 2 decades. Still, without taking insulin, she must have experienced some episodes, which makes how hard a worker she was all the more amazing. With help from Leroy, Warner Brothers now gave Ginger her breakout roles with top section billing in 2 big-budget productions, 42nd Street and Gold Diggers of 1933. There is so much to cover in these 2 movies, with their huge casts, Busby Berkeley dance scenes, and backstories, so I cover it all thoroughly in the Ginger Rogers playlist. Following is a quicker review of it all. 42nd Street was a great success, nominated for Best Picture, 8th highest revenue movie of the year, and listed as one of the best all-time musicals. It had a big cast, all appearing in big movies over their careers as part of the top Warner Brothers ensemble. Warner Baxter was the lead actor in 42nd Street, with a fine performance, including a famous AFI Top 100 quote. Baxter was far bigger than most realize. After several standout roles in the silence, he smoothly transitioned to sound, winning Oscar Best Actor in 1929 for his role the Cisco Kid in Old Arizona. In 1936, he was the highest paid actor in Hollywood. Bebe Daniels had an accomplished, amazing, resilient career and life. Child of a stage family, first performing at 4 years old. By 9 years old, Bebe was starring in shorts, including as the first Dorothy in 1910's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. In her teens, she co-starred with Harold Lloyd in a long string of shorts, and they were also romantically involved, famous as The Boy and the Girl. Every time the movies changed, she adapted, from co-starring with Rudolph Valentino in The Silence, to performing in a series of early musicals, to dramatic roles. She was harassed by an insane stalker, including an incident where he broke into her hotel room and terrorized her, but they kept releasing him. So in 1935, she and her husband, Ben Lyons, fled to London. There they became radio and then TV stars, including entertaining the troops in World War II with their high gang comedy show. It seems you could just not keep Bebby down. George Brent had a nice career and appears again with Ginger in Person, 1935. I will review his career then. I love the charming Una Merkel in this movie, a great supporting actress. While Ginger was the more famous brawler, Merkel had a hilarious rip-roaring catfight with Marlene Dietrich in Destry Rides Again, 1939. Ruby Keeler and Ginger's paths crossed years earlier when Ginger almost got the lead in a Ziegfeld show. This is her movie debut, except for one previous uncredited short appearance. She starred in several prominent Warner Brothers movies, including 7 with Dick Powell. After divorcing Jolson, she retired in 1941 for 30 years, until appearing on Broadway in the successful No No Nanette in 1971. Ginger appears in 2 movies after this with Dick Powell. He had an interesting career. He did almost 24 musicals for Warner Brothers in the 1930s, and then his career crashed. In 1944, he reinvented himself as a tough but good detective. Later, he hosted an award-winning television dramatic anthology show, The Dick Powell Theater. Rounding out the cast are 4 excellent character actors: Ned Sparks, Alan Jenkins, Guy Kibbe, and George E. Stone. Ginger didn't make the poster, but did make the opening credits. Playing the naughty Anytime Annie helped Ginger stand out.
You remember Aunt Lola?
Not Anytime Annie. Say, who could forget her? She only said no once, and then she didn't hear the question.
And she got permission to wear a monocle to stand out even more.
Get a load of Minnie the Mountaineer.
Must have been tough on your mother not having any children. That's telling them.
Oh, dear.
Come on, turn around.
Oh, dear. Not a calf in a carload. Oh.
Wait, get the next date, will you? All right, next date. Come on down.
Stick with us, kid, and you'll come in on the tide.
Come on, girl.
You know, you better hop on your kitty car and go back to Cleveland. Excuse me, it's the tight shoes.
Shut up.
Now, there's a kitty car I could really go for.
Anytime Annie. Well, lay me low.
Your new leading lady, folks. I guess I saved the day all right this time.
While I appreciate you trying to help, I'm afraid this young lady won't do.
Sure she will.
But I haven't got a chance of carrying this show. I know that as well as you do, maybe better.
You got somebody in this outfit who can carry your show. A great little trooper, honest, Mr. Marsh.
Don't you think I'm capable of selecting my own cast?
Sure, but you'd never pick this one. And I'm telling you, she can swing it. How can you lose? All you gotta do is try her. Her voice may not panic her, but she can dance rings around Brock. And your show's half dancing anyway. She'd kill him, I mean it.
Sawyer, nobody ever heard of her. She's just a raw kid out of the chorus.
Listen, Mr. Marsh. I've been waiting years for a chance like this. And if I give it up for somebody else, believe me, she's gotta be good.
You know the songs, the dance routines? You think you can play the lead tonight?
The lead? Sure you can, honey. Don't let him scare you.
Matrimony is baloney. She'll be wanting alimony in a year or so. Still they go and shuffle, shuffle off to Buffalo. I'll bet that she's the farmer's daughter, and he's that well-known traveling man. He once stopped down at the farmhouse. That's how the whole affair began.
Keeler gets the lead. It's opening night. So Baxter gives Keeler a pep talk. That is AFI's number 87, top 100 quote.
Sawyer, you're going out a youngster, but you've got to come back a star.
There are many great song and dance scenes. Busby Berkeley at his best, shown in depth on the playlist. This was the best Hollywood could do, until Fred changed it all. You're Getting to Be a Habit with Me, Shuffle Off to Buffalo, Young and Healthy, and the big finish, 42nd Street. Dick Powell sings Young and Healthy to a beautiful little blonde in an uncredited role.
I'm young, healthy, and so are you. When the moon is in the sky, tell me what am I to do, say.
How does an actress appear in 72 movies and shorts, mostly uncredited, and end up with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. That is the beautiful Toby Wing. She was a constant fixture in the gossip magazines, with her numerous affairs and engagements to famous men. She had many endorsement contracts and was one of the most photographed Hollywood starlets. She reputedly received more fan mail than Claudette Colbert or Marlene Dietrich. During World War II, she was in contention with Betty Grable and Rita Hayworth for the most popular pinup girl for the troops. 42nd Street's production was completed November 16, 1932. I cannot find the production dates for Gold Diggers of 1933, but it must have started at least by March 1933, since it was released May 27th. In January and February 1933, there were more published commentary about Leroy and Ginger. Again, I must stress, I view this type of source as very unreliable. That is true back then and now. Bear with me here. These documentaries will not be shoveling dirt on their subjects. You want sensationalist videos? There are plenty out there. This subject is covered because it leads to a dramatic event in Ginger's career, and my best attempt at explaining what happened here. Ginger and Leroy's engagement was again announced January 22, 1933. In a surprising statement, a February 1, 1933 article states Leroy did not know Ginger was going to be in Gold Diggers, which kind of refutes the idea that Leroy's influence got Ginger this role. Another February 1933 statement declared a seeming end to their relationship and that Leroy was dating another woman. Late February, Ginger and Leroy are seen out again together. Ginger never mentions being engaged to Leroy. What Ginger does state over and over is she was in love with the man she never met, Lou Ayres. She portrays her relationship with Leroy as friends. He was charming and helpful, and I assume filled in a gap in her life. There are contradictory comments, as in James Robert Parrish's 1974 book, The RKO Gals, which states, many Hollywood bystanders were convinced the couple would soon be wed, while Ginger never said yes to that important question. Ginger's bio had 1,100 pages cut from it, and with that much cutting, I am sure the baby got thrown out with the bathwater several times. Very possibly she had a lot to say about all this, but it came out too harsh, and if she could not state how she felt, she would say nothing. Maybe she does not mention this and the other upcoming issues because this entire strange episode is embarrassing to her. I cannot prove Ginger was or was not engaged to Leroy. Was it publicity or real? Did young Ginger get herself into a situation here, saying yes and then regretting it? Who knows? I am left with supposition. Ginger discussed other sensitive issues. I do not see her lying about an engagement. I do not believe she was engaged to Leroy. We've all seen the guy being the good friend of the gorgeous woman, hoping it could become more. That is what I think was going on here. Eventually, the guy gives up. In reading Ginger's bio, it seems she does state what happened in an indirect way, and you have to read between the lines. She tells of when, out with Leroy, he introduced her to the notorious womanizer Howard Hughes. Hughes sat at their table and made it apparent all he was interested in was Ginger. They danced, Hughes holding Ginger closely. She wrote, as Merv drove me home, I mused about the curious Texas oilman flyer. I wonder what he'd be like as a date. Did Ginger verbalize what she was thinking to Leroy? If so, no guy wants to hear that. Was this when Leroy realized Ginger was never going to marry him? In the next sentence, she starts off, not long after that evening, and discusses Leroy's surprise engagement announcement to Warner. Right after that, she started dating Hughes. Is my connecting the dots so far-fetched here? Is Ginger actually stating that she dumped Leroy for Hughes in a non-direct way? Ginger continued on in that next sentence, declaring she was stunned at the announcement Mervyn Leroy was marrying Doris Warner, the daughter of Warner Brothers head Harry Warner. As Ginger tells the story, this did not seem to bother her. Ginger refers to Leroy as her tennis and dancing partner. But it must have bothered Leroy. Ginger claims that when she finally was around him again 5 years later, he avoided eye contact with her the entire time. Is that the act of a guilty conscience? Was he prohibited from any contact? Or was he still angry at being jilted? What makes this so difficult to piece together is the lack of exact dates, putting this into a clear timeline. One last confusing statement. There is a scene in the recent biopic about Oscar-winning costume designer Ori Kelly, Women He Undressed, who created the costumes for Gold Diggers, showing an actress playing Ginger howling in tears to the Ori Kelly character over her unnamed fiancé becoming engaged to another woman. A very unflattering portrayal of Ginger. But I put little weight to the accuracy of this sensationalist work. It was barely worth watching and infuriating to this Ginger fan. It included a made-up gossip magazine cover with an image of Ginger from years later, casting further doubt on the integrity of this work. It ends up with the creepy image of the Ori Kelly character smirking with Ginger crying in the background. Trash. I dwell on this because it leads up to a crucial and astounding career event soon to occur for Ginger. May 27, 1933, Warner Brothers released Gold Diggers of 1933, directed by Ginger's boyfriend, or ex-boyfriend, Mervyn LeRoy. It was a big hit, #3 gross revenue for the year. This time Ginger made the poster and was again in the opening credits.
With silver you can turn your dreams to gold. Oh, we're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along.
As always, clever Ginger found a way to stand out even more. Ginger was goofing around after practicing the song and started singing it in Pig Latin. Producers Darrell F. Sanuk heard it and put it in the show. Or was that Ginger's plan all along? This is the third installment of 6 Gold Diggers movies by Warner Brothers. It first appeared as a very successful Broadway play between 1919 and 1921. Warner Brothers' 1923 silent The Gold Diggers was the 9th highest revenue movie of the year. Thought to be lost, sections of it have been found and released. Gold Diggers of Broadway was the second all-talking, all-technicolor, feature-length film, and was the 3rd highest revenue movie of 1929. Again, only sections of the movie exist today.
Tiptoe to the window, by the window, that is what I'll be. Up tiptoe through the tulips with me.
Then came this movie, followed by Gold Diggers of 1935, which had the Oscar Best Song, Lullaby of Broadway, with its excellent, at times, dance scene, the #70 Drive-In Top 100 Movie Dances. The series never again hit the top 10 revenue charts with Gold Diggers of 1937 and Gold Diggers in Paris. This was another huge cast musical by Warner Brothers. Ginger would appear again with Warren William in Upperworld, 1934. William appeared in 18 plays on Broadway and a few small roles in the silents, but when sound began, his deep, rich voice earned him top spots in many movies. He had a great run in the early 1930s and was the first Perry Mason for 4 movies. Later, he was the lone wolf in 9 movies. Elaine McMahon is great as Ginger's nemesis in this movie. She had a nice movie career, including 1 Oscar Best Supporting Actress nomination for Dragon Seed, 1944. She was huge on Broadway for 55 years.
This is the 4th show in 2 months that I've been in of and out of. They close before they open.
The Depression, dearie.
Say, Who'd you think it was, the wolf?
Oh, gee, I look much better in clothes than any of you. If Barney could see me in clothes...
He wouldn't recognize you.
You and Polly would make a swell team, like the Astairs. You'd be a knockout.
Oh, hello, everybody. Get her, just when I was beginning to have a good time.
Introduce me, won't you?
Oh, I thought you'd left. Miss Fortune, Mr. Bradford.
How do you do?
John.
You didn't introduce me.
Oh, Miss Fortune, this is Mr. Peabody.
Oh, Mr. Peabody.
Miss Fortune. My good fortune. Miss Fortune, won't you join us?
Oh, I'd love to. I'm just in the mood.
Some champagne?
Indeed, my doctor recommends it. Ouch!
Oh, what's the matter?
Faye has an attack of chiseling. It's chronic with her. Another look at him with those bedroom eyes and I'll break your leg. Excuse me for whispering. Faye and I have so much in common. Guess who?
It's Little Faye.
Yeah. It's little Fooey. Will you excuse us, please?
Surely.
Can you see that? See what? Can you read where it says exit? Exit? You said it. You start walking and you keep walking. And if you ever come near him again, I'll break both your legs. I could easily resent that and scram. Oh!
It had 5 song and dance scenes, I think superior to 42nd Street. Ginger's We're in the Money, Shadow Waltz, I've Got to Sing a Torch Song, the very naughty Petting in the Park, and what I consider Berkeley's greatest scene, the touching, dramatic Remember My Forgotten Man, to close the movie. Again, they are covered completely in the playlist. Remember My Forgotten Man was particularly touching to viewers in 1933 because the movie came out not long after the tragic Bonus Army event. Covered in detail in the video to this performance, in 1932 the Bonus Army, 43,000 strong, marched on Washington demanding immediate payment of their promised World War I bonus, redeemable in 1945, to help them survive the Depression. They set up Camp Marks in Washington, D.C. July 28, 1932, the camp was cleared by force with cavalry, light tanks, bayonets, and tear gas. In 1936, the veterans got their money.
We just love it, petting in the park. Bad boy, petting in the dark. Bad girl, what you doing, honey? I feel so funny.
The baby in this scene is performed by 9-year-old dwarf Bill Barty. He had a long career in movies and television, 214 performances between 1927 and 2001. The show opens with Powell and Keeler singing and dancing to Shadow Waltz. There is one hell of a backstory to the filming of this scene. At 5:55 p.m. March 10, 1933, the Long Beach earthquake hit Southern California, measuring 6.4 on the Richter scale. Berkeley was almost thrown off and momentarily hanging onto the camera boom with one hand. The lights were blown out, and the girls were trapped on these 30-foot-high platforms. Some were said to have been thrown off, but that is unverified. Gold Diggers didn't turn out as good for Ginger as it seemed it was going to. In a bizarre backstory, part fact, part gossip column, part supposition on my part, Ginger's reputed finest scene in this movie was cut, and while I do not have enough facts to explain what really happened here, the entire situation stinks. I will lay out the facts, the gossip, and my possible theories, and you can decide. If you look up this movie, you will come across an extensive series of beautiful images of Ginger, some excellent photography, where she is absolutely gorgeous. None of this is in the movie, though. Not in any movie. This is from Ginger's scene singing I've Got to Sing a Torch Song. It reportedly was great and would have boosted her career. I do not believe any copy survived. So what happened here? The reason why I had no idea is that Ginger does not mention this event at all in her otherwise long and detailed biography. She went into great detail on other events where she felt slighted. Why not this huge event for her at this time? 3, I believe interconnected, events occurred simultaneously. Ginger's scene was cut, her boyfriend got married, and Ginger refused a long-term contract. Earlier, I reviewed the status of Ginger and Leroy's relationship, whether they were friends or engaged, and who might have dumped who. Whatever the case, there were surely hurt feelings, and possibly anger and feelings of betrayal between the two of them. That is why I found the quote about Leroy not knowing Ginger was going to be in Gold Diggers amusing. He had probably been pushing for her all along, but now, no, I can't have her in my movie. Some have stated Ginger never cried. She was tough. She did not say that. She said she never let them see her cry, would never give them the satisfaction. I am sure throughout Gold Diggers, Ginger kept her composure in what must have been a very uncomfortable shoot. It seems to me personal issues might have gotten in the way during the making of the movie. In 42nd Street, Ginger played a casting couch star, Anytime Annie. Ginger had no problem playing bad and immoral girls. In her first full movie, Man of Manhattan, she was a little rich brat chasing a married man. Ginger believed she could play any role and wanted to prove it. Her role in 42nd Street was great, though. She and Una Merkel provided all the comedy. Ginger's character is sweet and supportive of Keeler. She shines with Merkel singing Shuffle Off to Buffalo, and in the end, she is noble, promoting Keeler over herself. But then, in Gold Diggers, again Ginger plays a casting couch slut. 2 movies. In each, only one character is like this, and both times it's Ginger. That is the beginning of being typecasted. And is this all Warner Brothers saw her good for? There was a time when playing the naughty girl led to fame and fortune, like Mae West and Jean Harlow. But the Hays Code was about to be enforced. This was dead-end typecasting. Because editing was so time-consuming at this time, they built movies sequentially and constantly adjusted the script as they went along. Remember My Forgotten Man was supposed to be earlier in the movie, but they decided it was so good moved it to the end, moving Petting in the Park earlier. So Ginger gets the great opening scene, singing We're in the Money. Then, as the movie progresses, not much during the middle of the movie, but it is often quality, not quantity, that matters. While Ginger gets to shine a little here or there, for the most part her character suffers the scorn of the lead actors. Nobody likes her character. MacMahon calls her a slut. The producer grimaces at her appearance and then tells her to shut up or she will have no role. Blondell makes a nasty crack at her next appearance, and then MacMahon verbally shreds her and then threatens her with breaking her leg. Her next appearance, MacMahon threatens to break both legs. You can shine being bad, but unlikable? Regretfully, there is no future in playing unlikable roles, except as pure character actors. The public gets a perception of you, and it sticks. But then Ginger had this great scene, and with 2 knockout singing performances in this big hit, this movie was a smashing success for Ginger. The only other source of info I have is a gossip column. Not that these gossip rags are reliable sources, a mix of truth, half-truths, exaggerations, innuendo, and lies. It must be noted this came out after Ginger's career was protected by a long-term contract with RKO. It is not known if Ginger was behind this story or RKO's publicity department, which Ginger and Fred much later said made up stories all the time about their fighting. Screenland, September 1934, had a very pro-Ginger article about this event. It starts off describing her as the latest hot-tempered redhead in Hollywood. Only at the premiere of Gold Diggers in Grauman's Chinese Theater did Ginger discover her torch song scene had been cut. It says a few days before Ginger had refused a long-term contract, so they did not want to promote a star not under contract. They had spent $15,000 making this scene, so afterwards they wanted to use it in shorts, but Ginger refused. They offered money, going up to $10,000, and Ginger still refused. There is a lot more fluff about her defying other studio heads, Ginger's winning 50 school popularity contests, signing a long-term contract with RKO, her sweet personality, athletic skills, and relationship with Lou Ayres. They wouldn't lie, would they? This had to be a shit situation for Leroy and for the Warner family. At the same time he is engaged to their daughter, their niece. A movie he directed and they produced is going to highlight just how gorgeous his very recent ex-girlfriend is. Ginger's pretty singing We're in the Money and throughout the movie, but if the photos are any indication of how she appeared in the I've Got to Sing a Torch song scene, now she was stunning. Was Ginger's great scene cut as a wedding present to Doris Warner? A little payback from her jilted ex-boyfriend? Before you declare this ridiculous, look into just how far studio heads would go, to the point of damaging their studio's finances for personal reasons, starting with the demise of John Gilbert's career. Gilbert reportedly roughed up MGM's Louis B. Mayer, seemingly justified, and while the two were still bound together by a long-term contract, Mayer crushed Gilbert's career. Some do cast doubt on this story. What happened next is confusing. The gossip column says they tried to put her great scene in a short. If it was as great as claimed, it would have boosted her career. Had Warner played a tough hand and Ginger called their bluff? Now they were back where they started, in the sweepstakes to sign Ginger long-term. She refused $10,000, which is a lot of money back then? If true, then Ginger had to have been really pissed off. One last, even more confusing detail. Warner Brothers released a soundtrack album for the movie and included Ginger singing I've Got to Sing a Torch song.
I've got to sing a torch song, 'cause that's the way I feel.
Those are the facts and the gossip. That Warner Brothers tried to lock Ginger into a long-term contract rings true. Everyone was. They saw she was a unique talent with a bright future. And now they were no longer constricted by her being one of their top directors' girl. Maybe this was all about the long-term contract. The only thing the studio heads cared about more than money was power and control. Movie history is filled with shameful and sometimes outright despicable acts by these men. The casting couch, just one example. Ginger was defying the entire system. She writes several references to attempted casting couch incidences, where her mother protected her, she ran out saying she was late for her next shoot, or she even threatened to tell the producer's wife. Most of all, she got out of her initial long-term contract with Paramount and afterwards refused all long-term contract offers. She was not alone with this, but it was rare. This must have frustrated the studio heads, because they wanted to lock up talent so only they could make money from them, and not competing studios. As Ginger's career rose, and at this point it was rising, even before these two Warner Brothers big-budget movies, the studios were all trying to get Ginger to sign long-term with them. Maybe Warner Brothers decided on a different approach. First show Ginger what they could do for her with this great scene, and then show her they could take it away. Maybe, just maybe, the timing was far more nefarious. The article says she turned down the long-term contract just a few days before the premiere. Did they have time to cut her scene after that, or was it already done? Is it possible the plan was to lock her in for a long-term contract, where her career was at the mercy of the studio, and then have her realize what she had just agreed to when her best scene was cut? Realize who was the boss? After all, who did this little hussy think she was anyway? Refusing to pay her dues on the couch? Made a fool of their director? Humiliated their daughter or niece? Congratulations, Doris. As an engagement present, we crushed that bitch's career. A little far-fetched? Probably. If Warner Brothers had called Ginger into a meeting and explained why her scene was cut, even stating you did not sign, so we cut it, that would have been business. But if the gossip rag is accurate, and that's a big if, having Ginger sit there at the premiere and realize her scene was cut was cruel, vicious. Maybe Ginger doesn't talk about it because she was so humiliated. Maybe Warner Brothers thought she would cave to their demands and put the scene back in. So thanks, Merv, old buddy, old pal. As the movie progressed, Ginger must have been troubled, but at least she had those two great singing performances. With that cut, was the writing on the wall clear enough? Thankfully, Ginger turned down their long-term contract, or her just blossoming career might have been reduced to garbage, and there would have been nothing she could do about it. I have rewritten this section countless times as I was presented with new facts and informed opinions. One commentator on this channel stated that when Jack and Harry Warner reviewed this scene in the screening room, it was too strong of a performance and would destroy the narrative of the movie. In other words, Ginger would steal the show. Her fans know just how good Ginger could be, but at that time it was probably very surprising. Do you allow Ginger to steal the show as she walks out the door and performs for other studios? What happened over the next decade might be indicative. One thing for sure, Ginger never seemed to hold a grudge, not against anyone she at some point claims wronged her. Years later, the Leroys were invited to a party held by Phyllis Fraser, Ginger's cousin. But she did seemingly hold a grudge for a while. In 1934, Ginger did 2 more movies for Warner Brothers under their first national title. This was after flying down to Rio, so covered in the next episode. Ginger never mentions the terms of her contract with Warner Brothers. Was it a 4-movie deal with these completing her obligation? Again, in Upworld, Ginger played a slut, a burlesque performer who starts off in a blackmail scheme against a rich and powerful man. It seems that is how Warner Brothers saw her. But this was still a much better role. She often shines, and in the end her character is sweet and fragile, and then heroic. If it was a 4-movie deal, Warner had one more chance, and in 20 Million Sweethearts, she gets to play a great role. Sweet, strong, forgiving, supportive. Didn't work. Soon she signed with RKO, which was not infamous for its casting couch, and had always seen far more in Ginger than the rest of the studios. After Gold Diggers, RKO gave her a wonderful role in Professional Sweetheart, where all her many talents really shined. In 1937, 4 years later, when Ginger was an established star, RKO and Warner Brothers made a swap deal for Ginger and Paul Muni. Ginger was to do another musical with Dick Powell. Ginger refused. Ginger refused all follow-up offers, and RKO had to pay a $75,000 penalty. Was Ginger getting even? She did turn down many roles over the years. In 1942, Bette Davis was in a contract dispute with Warner, and Ginger was offered Now Voyager, which she really wanted to do. But Davis ended her strike when Ginger was offered the role. Ginger, who freelanced around the studios most of her career, did not do another Warner Brothers movie until Perfect Strangers in 1950. She made the right choice, even without 20/20 hindsight. As for Leroy, he left Warner Brothers for MGM in 1938 and divorced Warner in 1942. Whatever sting Ginger might have felt from her Warner Brothers experience, nothing was going to hold her back from her singular pursuit of her career. Ginger now resumed freelancing for 6 more movies, now with 4 top billings under the title, 1 second and 1/3. This included a 3-movie contract with RKO with an option for a long-term contract. More importantly, she was able to highlight her improving acting skills in other genres, including drama, romance, romantic comedies, and musicals. She was not only very good at being very bad, she could play sweet and loyal just as well. Columbia gave Ginger a screen test, but did not sign her. Studio head Harry Cohn did chase Ginger around his desk until she threatened to tell his wife. Would she have gotten the part if she gave in to his attempt? In these cretins' sick minds, they did not care what they were doing to these young women. But do this to the girl of one of Hollywood's elite? They would never do that. Ginger had been protected by her relationship with Leroy, but I guess now she was fair game. RKO viewed the screen test and signed Ginger to a 3-movie contract with an option for a long-term contract. and then they gave her a great role, highlighting her talents. Once again, RKO seemingly understanding her potential more than the rest. Whether this was planned or just luck, in Professional Sweetheart, they had the perfect vehicle to utilize Ginger's unique set of talents. The role of Glory Eden was tailor-made for Ginger. She shines like never before and highlights her beauty, her comedic skills, her dramatic acting, and, for the first time, just how good she could be playing the mean girl when pissed off. In a movie where Ginger sparkles throughout, in one scene in particular, she is just fantastic. She is justifiably angry, going from a radio show that kept her captive to a marriage that started off keeping her captive. So she taunts her new husband to get even, looking incredibly gorgeous and performing a hilarious scene. For the first time, Ginger got glowing reviews. If that was not enough, the other factor was the director. One common theme throughout Ginger's bio is directors, good and bad. Ginger loved working with director William A. Sider. He was a comedic director, directing Wheeler and Woolsey, Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, and the Marx Brothers. Ginger wrote, "I simply adored him." He would direct all 3 movies in Ginger's 3-movie deal, and later his touch was apparent in Ginger's great comedic performance in Roberta and good performance in Person. With all this, I say RKO finally won the Ginger sweepstakes right here in this movie because they respected her. Ginger appeared again with Norman Foster and an excellent group of comedic character actors. Zazu Pitts, Alan Jenkins, Gregory Ratoff, and Franklin Pangborn. But most of all, the great Frank McHugh. After Ginger, I find McHugh's funny performance the next best in the movie. One issue in this movie did upset Ginger. For the first and only time, Ginger singing her only song, My Imaginary Sweetheart, was dubbed over by Etta Moten. I understand why they did this. Ginger did not really have a radio-quality voice, just a great movie voice. Still, no one ever did this again. Not to be outdone by Warner and their wonderful photo shoot of Ginger in Gold Diggers, RKO did multiple photo shoots of a very sexy Ginger in several different costumes, including a black negligee referenced in several scenes her character never gets to wear. RKO did everything right in the contest to sign Ginger long-term. In the opening scene, Ginger's character behaves terribly, a real diva. In the next scene, we find out what she is so justifiably angry about. She went from an orphan to a star, and these 4 clowns follow her everywhere. She is not allowed to enjoy life at all, not even choosing what she will eat.
No makeup, no perfume, no jewelry.
New York ain't at all like I thought it was going to be when I was in the home. I can't dress like I want to. I can't even eat like I want to. No makeup, no jewelry, nothing.
Everything.
That's just the trouble with it. It's got too much. Look, she shall not smoke.
It doesn't look good to the corn bell. But, darling, it's not in character. It simply doesn't suit your personality.
Nor swear, nor drink.
It isn't me, Glory, that objects. I am as wet as any...
Glory, how would it look? Me playing you up as the purity girl and then have the newspapers find you in jail some morning all pie-eyed.
I won't go to jail. I got a lawyer. Shall not attend nightclubs or other places of public entertainment, nor be seen at any time alone with any man. I ask you!
You know how it's...
No! I was better off in the orphan's home. It's the truth! I had much more fun in the orphan's home than
After
I've
all
ever
that I've
here.
done for you. As hard as I've worked.
The way I put you over.
What am I getting out of it? What have I got for fun?
Piano.
Oh!
Irredia.
Oh!
Books.
Books! 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 Books!
Glory, Glory, what are you doing? Glory. Glory.
All right, here. I've been here 3 whole months and all I get is books.
Glory, Glory,
Books.
Glory, stop, stop.
Or give me a chance. That's all.
I do like you a lot.
Well, that's enough to start on. I couldn't expect more to start on. I reckon you know how I feel about you, Miss Glory.
Tell me. You don't kiss like you look.
Her new husband might be a hick, but he is no fool, and takes Ginger away from all their manipulative plans. But Ginger thought she was going on a honeymoon to Atlantic City and is furious. He finds out Ginger is not quite the purity girl, and in her anger, Ginger lies about who and what she is to taunt him.
Of course, I know now it was all a lie. Everything you said, just a lie. All of it.
Well, if you think I'm so bad, then why do you want to stay married to me?
I ain't sure that I do.
Oh.
But I'm gonna see that you make good on everything you told them. Well, you never done a lick of work in your life. Look at them hands. You just lied about it all, didn't you?
Sure I lied about it. I never did a lick of work in my life. Brought up in the lap of luxury. Cook? Me? I couldn't even boil water.
Well, you're gonna learn.
I'll be darned if I do.
You'll be starved if you don't. And cut out that swearing. I'm gonna make you into the kind of woman I thought you was. A good woman. A woman that...
Got a cigarette? I'm simply dying.
No.
Any liquor? Oh, dear.
Smoking and drinking and...
Smoking and drinking and men.
And men? How many?
I don't remember. Hundreds.
And stop that. Ain't you got no decency at all?
After all, you're my husband, aren't you?
You're a bad woman. Really a bad woman. With your face all painted and...
To me. Give them to me. Give them to me. All right. Da 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 da.
Stop it.
Make me, you great big, I'll dance if I like, and I want to dance. Let go of me. Stop it. Ouch! You great big so. If I ever lose my temper, I'll get so mad one of these days. I'll show you just how.
Professionally, Ginger's next movie, Don't Bet on Love, her first for Universal, did little for her career. It is not a very good movie, and her role is rather small, with no outstanding scenes, as the loyal, enduring love interest of a gambling addict. Personally, this was heaven for Ginger, because she was paired with the man she had a crush on for 3 years, Lou Ayres. Ginger had seen Ayres in All Quiet on the Western Front in 1930, and immediately had a huge crush on him. After the huge hit All Quiet on the Western Front, his career was mostly in B-movies. Between 1938 and 1942, he played Dr. Kildare in 8 movies. He was a conscientious objector in World War II, and that did not help his career. He was nominated for Best Actor for his role in Johnny Belinda. Charlie Grapeman was another great character actor whose career only really got started when he was 60 years old. He still appeared in over 100 movies, including classics like The Wizard of Oz and The Grapes of Wrath.
I've got a birthday next week. Would you like to make me a present?
Sure, what is it?
Marry me. Why not?
You know why, Bill.
You mean on account of my playing the horses?
And I'm going to keep on saying no until you do as I asked you 2 years ago.
And now, even when we're going on our honeymoon, you can't forget the horses. You'll never give up gambling. It's not in the cards. I don't think we ought to go through with this.
Oh, but I gave you my word.
That's just it. You've always given me your word, only you've never kept it. I've lost all my faith in you. And as long as I have no faith in you, I won't marry you.
Before the shooting even started, Ayers called Ginger for a date. During the phone conversation, Ginger thought she was swooning as everything around her shook, but it was a small earthquake. Later, on the date, every time Ayers kissed Ginger, the ground shook. She took it as a wonderful omen. They dated seriously after this point. I assume this abruptly ended Ginger dating Hughes, but he would come back into her life with a vengeance a few years from now. Earlier I stated how daring it was for Ginger to do the 13th guest for Poverty Row Studio Monogram, but that was because I knew this was coming up. What do you do when you just appeared in 2 blockbusters and a leading role in a very well-received movie? You go back to Poverty Row, of course. Again, she sent a clear message to the studios and succeeded. This was by far the highest-grossing movie to ever come out of an M.H. Hoffman studio, and there was only one difference from all the rest of their fare, and her name was Ginger Rogers. In A Shriek in the Night, Ginger again does a murder mystery and is reunited with Lyle Talbot. This is a much better movie and role for Ginger than in The 13th Guest, as Ginger plays an undercover reporter and then an investigative journalist. This time, though, it was improved by adding romantic comedy into the plot, as Talbot, a real rascal, also chases after Ginger. I really liked Lyle Talbot and wonder why he was not more successful.
All right, what's your name?
It's Morgan. Pat Morgan. I'm a reporter on the morning news. That is, I was a reporter on the morning news until Ted Rand pinched my story last night.
What was the idea of posing as Harker's secretary? What are you after?
Harker. My editor got wind of some connection between Harker and Joe Martini. He couldn't figure what the town's favorite saint was doing in business with a racketeer.
Were they in business?
I don't know. I know Martini was up here several times, always late at night, and always when Harker thought I was asleep. But as far as getting anything definite on him, what you mean is you wasted an hour hanging around the police station. If you'd picked me up, I'd told you they were headed for the morgue.
Is it the depressing atmosphere of this place, or do I imagine that you're angry with me?
I? Angry with you? Huh. What have I to be angry with you about? You only pinched my story and made me lose my job, but what does that matter?
You... Couldn't you sit a little closer?
Not without being arrested.
Anything else?
Plenty. Guess whose mob he was in?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. Not Mr. Josephus Martini's.
Yes, Mr. Josephus Martini's. I just got the dope on it from the office.
There may be something in it, and then again, no.
Listen, if Covey killed his wife, and then Harker, and the case is closed, who's interested enough in this apartment to listen in over the phone? Surely Covey wasn't listening in from the morgue.
Let's hope not.
RKO renewed Ginger's contract, again for 3 movies, with a nice raise to $550 per week. RKO delivered again in the second movie of a 3-movie deal, putting Ginger in a clever, charming romantic comedy, Rafter Romance, again with Norman Foster.
All night you're in the loft, ain't you?
Yeah.
Well, from 8 o'clock at night until 8 o'clock in the morning, this place belongs to the other party.
Mr. Ekbaum, are you trying to get me to share a room with a man? Of all the vile, horrible things
No,
I've ever heard in my
Miss
whole
Tanner. Now, look. It's a man, yes. But you'll never meet him. You'll never speak with him. I wouldn't even tell you his name, even.
Say, guys, that's a pretty nice number.
Good morning, Mr. Warburton.
Good evening, Miss Abercrombie.
Have you investigated the pot? I beg your pardon.
You said good morning, Mr. Warburton.
What to see that it happened?
A rotten outrage. I won't have any moon-faced, corn-fed, goggle-eyed spinster.
Oh, yes, you will. You got to agree to that now, Jack.
Ekbaum, that person, all the horrible, disgusting creatures, the things he said.
Man is going to come into your life. And this other line, you see this other little line there?
It says you're going to meet a stranger.
Here, you can keep the quarter.
Is this...
Yeah, this is the place. Hey, look out!
Well, it's all right. It isn't any good.
Hey, don't do that. She'll be madder than 17 Siamese scorpions. She'll break out in spots.
Oh, no, she... She? Who?
Eggbomb asked me to do it just to help her out. You see, she's down and out.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, and you'd think she'd act in keeping with her situation, but of all the mean, unpleasant.
Oh, you don't like her?
Like her? I'd like to break her skinny neck. Ouch. Oh.
Sorry.
What am I seeing, a hallucination? Now listen, Jack, you know it ain't in the arrangement for you two to be together.
You? You live here in this attic? Then you're the one that put my suit, my good suit, under the shower.
Why did you tell me the shower was working and then fix it so to fall on my head?
It fell on your head.
Oh, that's funny, isn't it? Yes, on my head, and I've still got the bump. Furthermore, if you think sawing my bed in half was a funny idea...
How about the time you put glue on my toothbrush? I asked you nicely to leave that toothbrush alone. It's a pity you can't keep your hands off things.
Keep my hands off things? What about my $2? The $2 for my laundry?
Here, little lady, what's it all about?
That filthy, horrible, detestable man. This filthy, horrible,
Oh, yeah? Well, you hop in the hack. I'll attend to that.
All right.
So, here you are. I'm a guy that don't argue.
I never want to see you again. Don't you dare touch me.
Oh, Mary, will you please be reasonable? Oh, look, I couldn't help
Oh,
it.
you're in the mud. When that lady says something, she means it.
Don't you dare touch him, you big bully. Can't you see he's got a sore foot.
RKO delivered again. This time Ginger shines with second billing in Chance at Heaven, a dramatic romance. When the movie ends, there's no doubt which character the audience loves. Joel McCrea had top billing and is a real natural in front of the camera. He did well in romantic dramas, comedies, and, his favorite, westerns. He would star one more time with Ginger. Ginger's character patiently waits for the man she loves, who takes her for granted.
In my time, young lady, men didn't take girls out for almost 2 years.
Oh, don't go into that again, Mom, please. Well, isn't there anyone around here that you could care for?
You mean you? Why, I thought you knew that. I was going to wait a little while. I mean, until I had plenty put by for us.
Think those buildings over there will be safe?
Do you suppose you could move them just a trifle? Then I'd be sure to hit them all. Kind of cute, isn't she?
She sure is. Did you see what she did to my chaise lounge? What a reckless driver.
I'll bet she's dangerous, too.
Nixon has another accident, and McCrea is called. He makes sure to tell Nixon the nightclub he frequents. And then he takes Ginger to that nightclub. He is such an oaf he doesn't even hide he is watching out for Nixon, and Ginger tries to deal with it with humor, teasing him about his fascination with Nixon.
You haven't been dancing with me tonight.
Huh?
Oh, the feet have been dragging themselves around with little Marge. But the mind's been stepping out with little Glory. We've been watching that door ever since we came in. You have too, liar. We've been talking about her all evening.
Well, all I said was...
Not many rich dames would ride in a truck with a guy in greasy old clothes.
Of course, Nixon arrives on her fiancé's arm. There is a shortage of tables, so Ginger tells McCrae to invite Nixon and her fiancé to sit with them so she can get to see what McCrae is talking so much about. Ginger and Nixon go to the powder room, where Nixon makes it obvious she is also obsessed with McCrae. By the time he drops Ginger off, after talking the entire time about Nixon, Ginger can no longer keep up the sarcastic front.
Was a kick at that. Me, dancing with $1 million worth of class. You can trot rings around Glory Franklin. Or anybody else, see?
No, I can't, but I love to hear you say so.
You can trot rings around Glory Franklin. Or anybody else.
You're plenty cuckoo over her now.
Listen, Mug. We're all set to get married. Does that sound like I was stuck on her?
It sounds like a nice kid who made up his mind to keep his word. We'll still be friends. Always, I hope. You have to have someone to talk to about your oil and gas and where to put the air compressor. And I'll still want to listen.
I like you, Marge, a lot. I want you to like me.
I think you're a swell kid.
London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
Good evening, Mr. Gorman. You're just in time for dinner.
Marge.
What you're going to tell me. Once upon a time, a knight rode away on a cloud with the princess. But one day, the princess pulled the cloud out from under him. What the boy didn't know was that the local Cinderella loved him. And she wanted him to be happy. And boy, is she happy.
Gee, that's the best chicken pie I ever ate.
The title is deceptive. McCrae had a chance at heaven with loyal, loving Ginger, and he blew it. Now he has another chance. In another backstory that seems bizarre by today's standards, Ginger was sometimes working on 2 movies for 2 studios at the same time. At this time it was RKO and Paramount, fairly close to each other, so Ginger rode a bike back and forth. No matter how close, could you ever imagine this today? As if on one long screen test over her last few movies, in her final movie before making movie history teaming up with Fred, Ginger sparkles in a musical comedy, proving her incredible versatility. In Sitting Pretty, Ginger has 3rd billing after Jack Oakey and Jack Haley. Notice Ginger's last freelance movie is for Paramount, the studio that gave her her start in what seems decades ago, but was only 3.5 years. If they were trying to win the Ginger sweepstakes, here they gave Ginger a wonderful role she really shined in, from start to finish. The movie is mostly about Oakey and Haley's exploits as a songwriting team coming to Hollywood to make it big. Oakey is a selfish user, and Haley a sweet, loyal friend. Jack Haley will always be remembered as the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz, but he appeared in over 30 other movies and is charming in this one. Thelma Todd was Miss Massachusetts in 1925 and then joined Paramount Studios. She appeared in 115 movies from comedies to dramas. She also was partners in a restaurant nightclub. December 16, 1935, Todd was found dead in her car in a garage. The night before, she had an argument with her mob-connected ex-husband. Her current lover had locked her out. It was declared accidental with possible suicide tendencies, but nobody thought she killed herself. Maybe she was just trying to stay warm. Maybe not. What I love about this role is that Ginger gets to sing many songs for the first time in her movie career. Composers Harry Revel and Matt Gordon's songs for Ginger were in her vocal range. Later, that was not always the case, especially with the Irving Berlin movies. Ginger had a real nice voice within her range. You're Such a Comfort to Me, a prime example. When given material outside her range, she always courageously belted it out anyway, and with her style and always remembering to act while singing, they still made fine movie scenes. Yet, with all the songs Ginger sang, even the first Oscar Best Song, The Continental, never once did Ginger have a top 10 song on the Billboard Top 100. Her voice did not translate very well to radio. She knew this, and after Top Hat, when making her first album, she demanded the right to cancel it after the studio work, which she then did. Okie and Haley want to talk to a food stop diner owner on their way to Hollywood.
What you doing? You got that oil all over.
Well,
You're a girl.
Well, what does it look like I am? 'Cause I want to meander with Miranda to an altar, to a preacher, to a church with a steeple where the people will be waiting. Congratulate me and Miranda. I mean Miranda and me.
Boom, 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 boom.
While you're waiting for your toast, call the one you love the most. Just pick up the phone and start in saying, "Oh, and Glory, were you dreaming of me? And do you still love me? Well, here's a little kiss for you." Well, we're here.
Well, can you imagine? Come on in a little. All the people from the same place.
All right.
Swell. Say you're dancing better than half of the girls in the studio now. Keep it up, you'll get in.
Like a port in a storm, like a breeze when you're warm, like sugar in your tea, you're such a comfort to me. Like a coat when you're cold, like a cane when you're old, like honey to a bee, you're such a comfort to me.
Did you ever have a dream? Will you be mine? Oh, it's so grand, and it's too divine. Did you ever see a dream dancing? Well, I did.
Did you ever see a dream of walking? Well, I did. Did you ever hear a dream of talking? Well, I did. Oh. Did you ever have a dream of thrill you with will you be mine? No, it's so grand and it's too divine. Did you ever see a dream of dancing? Well, I did. No. Did you ever see a dream romancing? Well, I did. Did you ever see heaven right in your arms, saying I love you, I do?
This song, Did You Ever See a Dream Walking, was very popular in 1933, with 4 cover renditions hitting the top 10 on the Billboard Top 100. As she tells it in her biography, Ginger was very proud of her involvement with this song. She didn't like the final song chosen for her to sing in the movie and refused to sing it. The producers let her choose another from a stack of songs, all rejects from other movies. She chose Did You Ever See a Dream Walking, and it was the only hit from the movie. In her biography, Ginger credits cinematographer Milton R. Krasner for his excellent work, making her look her best. Finally, back to Fred. Fred was completing the Broadway run of Gay Divorce and decided to take a stab at Hollywood. Mervyn LeRoy told Fred they should make a movie of Gay Divorce, and would take it up with Warner Brothers. Later, Leroy said Jack Warner, head of Warner Brothers, said, "Who am I going to put in it? Cagney?" Fred engaged agent Leland Howard, who called David O. Selznick, head of RKO, who said they wanted Fred for a big musical, Flying Down to Rio. Fred headed to Hollywood for a screen test. The now lost evaluation of Fred's screen test is rumored to have stated, "Can't act, can't sing, balding, can dance a little." This was refuted by Fred, who claims it said, "Can't act, slightly bald, also dances." Fred's Hollywood career was saved by David O. Selznick, not the only time this genius made daring decisions that paid off with huge rewards. Still, his half-hearted endorsement in a memo said, "I am uncertain about the man, but I feel, in spite of his enormous ears and bad chin line, that his charm is so tremendous that it comes through, even on this wretched test." Fred was in only one movie before Flying Down to Rio, Dancing Lady, starring Joan Crawford and Clark Gable. RKO hit production delays, so they lent out Fred to MGM for this movie. Coincidentally, it was released on the same day as Ginger's Sitting Pretty, so right before the partnership, they went head-to-head in dueling musicals. It was no contest. Dancing Lady was very successful, the 7th highest-grossing movie of the year. Fred played himself, the great Fred Astaire from Broadway, and did a few dance scenes with Joan. Joan Crawford is a Hollywood legend, racking up all the honors and awards you see below. She started her career as a dancer, and her breakout role was the lead in her 4th movie appearance, Our Dancing Daughters, and was a huge financial success. It was one of the last silent movies, more of a hybrid, with synchronized music and background sounds. She had no issue moving into the sound era, and was a huge star through the 30s. In the 40s, she left MGM for Warner Brothers because of lousy roles, and in 1945 won a Best Actress Oscar for her performance in Mildred Pierce. 2 more nominations came by 52. Her last hit was in 1962 with her nemesis Bette Davis in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Clark Gable, the king of Hollywood, was even bigger. His career statistics are astounding. Like Fred, early on his big ears were an issue. Warner Brothers executive Darryl F. Zanuck said, "His ears were too big and he looks like an ape." Joan Crawford got him his breakout role when requesting him to co-star with her in 1931's Dance Fools Dance, and they would star together in 7 more movies, including Dancing Lady. He was at the very top through the 30s and early 40s, and then served for 3 years in the Air Force during World War II. When he returned in 46, he was still 7th to 13th top moneymaker through 1950, and remained on the list every year but one through 1957. Franchot Tone plays a rich man who takes a liking to the at-the-time down-and-out Crawford, and through the movie is Crawford's other romantic interest. He had a nice career, including being nominated for Oscar Best Actor in Mutiny on the Bounty, again with Gable. He is credited with the Oscars introducing the Best Supporting Actor and Actress categories because of this nomination. He had several other outstanding performances. Starting on Broadway, in his 2nd movie he co-starred with Crawford, the first of 7 movies they did together. They were married in 1935, divorced in 1939, but remained lifelong friends, and Crawford paid his medical bills when he was dying of cancer. In a crazy backstory, actor and successful amateur boxer Tom Neal shattered Tone's face in a fight over Tone's fiancée, the notorious Barbara Payton, who was cheating with Neal while engaged to Tone, and Tone was left unconscious for 18 hours. Tone married Payton, but divorced her the next year when he discovered she was still having an affair with Neal. Later, Neal was convicted of manslaughter in the shooting death of his 3rd wife. This movie also features Ted Healy and his Stooges, the Three Stooges, early in their movie career. They had started in 1922 in vaudeville, with varying lineups over time. In 1933, they signed with MGM and did several movies, including this. In 1934, they split from Healy and moved to Columbia as the Three Stooges, and their 90 shorts between 1934 and 1946, later a mainstay on television, is the most remembered parts of their careers.
Feel like going through that opening number with Mr. Stair?
All right.
Ready?
Yes, Patch.
Show Miss Barlow the routine on that opening number, will you?
I'd love to.
Good evening, Mr.
All right,
Barlow.
Steve, get him in the paper.
Do you know the routine?
I've seen it often enough. I'll try.
Oh, that's fine. Oh, Harry, give us the pickup on that gang number, will you, please?
Yeah.
Thanks. Not too fast, now, Harry.
Stand up and sing. We've got the gang together. We always sang together. Stand up and sing. Hi ho, the gang's all here. So let's have pencils and let's have beer. Hi ho, it's time to start and put some spirit in the party.
Oh boy, the world's all right. We won't be singing the blues tonight.
Let's give the grand old cheer. It's all so merry when the gang's all here.
Fred and Crawford dance on a flying carpet between the two dance scenes. The next dance, Let's Go Bavarian, is more of a Busby Berkeley special, and not very good.
Let's go Bavarian, get yourself a sweet dry lime. She can help you drink a stein of good old beer. Let's go Bavarian, clink your glasses all around. Make that tinkle tinkle sound.
Spread good cheer here in Bavaria. They take good care of you in all this area. Skies are clear, so
Let's go Bavarian, this is the happy scene. Mr. Augustine, drink your beer. This is Justin Heidelberg, more famous far than Heidelberg. And what's it famous for?
beer, beer, beer. No one cares for Piper Heinzig. Everybody laughs their sightsick while they yell for more. Beer, beer, beer. Here's a place where skies are never gray. Here's a place to drink your cares away.
Let's go Bavarian, get yourself a sweet Fräulein. She can help you drink a stein of good old beer.
I laughed when I saw the release date of Katharine Hepburn's critically acclaimed and financially successful hit, Little Women, November 24th, 1933, the same day as Ginger Sitting Pretty and Fred's Dancing Lady. With this, Katharine established herself as the queen of RKO. And who decided to take the chance on this unusual actress? Yep, David O. Selznick, the genius. David O. Selznick ran RKO for only 15 months, starting October 1931, and had a very successful tenure. RKO had constant turnover at the top, and Selznick left after a dispute with the latest new president, a real loss for RKO. But during this time, he brought in the 3 big future stars for RKO, taking a chance on the unknown, unusual Katharine Hepburn, winning the sweepstakes to sign Ginger Rogers to a long-term contract, and taking a chance on Fred Astaire. And then he left. In a few years, he was the driving force behind the most successful movie of all time, Gone with the Wind. Maybe he was so smart he got the hell out of there before these two started butting heads. I just love the Ginger and Katharine backstories. They had conflicts over roles, billing, and even men. Next episode. In the next episode, we cover the Fred and Ginger period of their careers. It was not planned. Ginger had never danced in the movies. When they were done filming, they all thought it was a bust. Something unexpected happened. The public just loved the 4th and 5th billed actors. Their dance got standing ovations in movie theaters. Fred and Ginger were Hollywood's newest stars. Please like and subscribe.